And welcome into the TexAgs post-game wrap, where Texas A&M defeats Utah State 44-22. And my friends, this is presented by TKO Equipment, your Aggie-owned and operated Texas construction. Wow, that was a nice way to say construction. And aggregate equipment dealer. It was founded 47 years ago by the Smith family. Aggie classes of 60, 67, 69, and 73, continuing today with classes of 73, 98, and 12 actively involved, headquartered in DFW. With fully stocked branch office in New Braunfels, TKO proudly serves all of Texas and has the equipment expertise and passion for service to keep your job up and running. TKO is also your exclusive Texas screen machine dealer. Give them a call for all your earth moving or aggregate equipment needs, or simply visit tkoequipment.com to learn more. All right, let's get into a game that the score isn't indicative, in my opinion, of really the domination that A&M had for most of the game. 30-6 at the half. Ends up being 44-22. Our panel, as always, Brandon Leone in studio. Hello, sir.
What's up, brother? Good
What's
to be
up?
here.
Great to see you. Chris Harrington on Zoom. Hey, bud.
Hey there.
Peace. And I don't know if CT's there yet. Is CT not there yet, guys? CT, hello, buddy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I love the awkward intros to start the post-game wrap. So let's get into it. Guys, I want everyone's opinion. Let's go 30 seconds each on what their major takeaway. Obviously, we're monitoring the Marcel Reed situation. I should probably start with that. According to Coach Elko, he told Alyssa Lang that he'll be fine. And then I think there's some other comments that he made at the postgame that we'll get to here in a moment. But your overall thoughts, Brandon?
Yeah, I think if the portion of the game that matters in games like this, if that's what you were paying attention to, I think, we held them to just under or just above 60 yards. We had over 300 yards of offense. I think when I watch these games like this that are not SEC conference games or the games like we're having next week, I'm looking at the plays and the things that are going to either keep us from being productive or as good as we can be. And so, penalty on the first kickoff on special teams, another penalty that slowed down a drive. Those little things like that we got to get clean up. But overall, we distributed the ball well. Le'Veon in the first quarter was good. We had some space for him.
Yep.
Marcel hit that deep ball to Bussy. Some things that we saw that he missed last week. So overall, in the first half, I thought it was encouraging. I felt like they handled their business, but I'm sure everyone will agree. Second half was a little sloppier than we all would have liked, but overall, I thought it was fine.
CT, by the way, here's the statement. Coach Elko does anticipate Marcel Reed and Trey Zune, who also got hurt in the first quarter, will be fine for next week. All right, CT, what's next on your mind?
Yeah, kind of to echo what Brandon was saying. This is a game that, for all intents and purposes, it was over in the, at halftime, over in the first half. And so you want to see those guys no pre-snap penalties, making sure that your fits are right. And I thought that it was encouraging that we're able to push the ball down the field. You look at what Craver and what KC have been able to do in the first two ball games, and that is very encouraging for our pass game as we continue to go into the season. And so I thought Marcel was sharp. I thought that he hit some passes that he missed early last week. But then you saw the run game. We were a little more physical at the point of contact. There was a little more space for Le'Veon to get going, for Ruben to get going. So you saw some really good things, some encouraging things there in the first half. And like Brandon said, that second half, we've got to figure out why we're sleepwalking as we come into the third quarter. But hopefully, and I say hopefully because we know what next week holds, and we know what that road game really means for our season. So we've got to get that cleaned up, got to have faster starts in the second half. But I thought overall the first two games, and especially this one, offense did some great things. We were able to do what we wanted on offense. Defense played lights out in that first half. So an encouraging win today. Now we get ready for that big one next week in South Bend.
Mr. Harrington?
Yeah, going into the game, my priorities were to see us stop the run and to run the ball. And it looks like, we did both of those things well today. So good to see defensive line getting pressure. Cassius Howell with 3 sacks in a row on 3 plays. That was pretty phenomenal to see. So overall, I'm pleased to see us stop the run the ball, and then to get pressure on defense.
All right, I need a ruling. I put this on Twitter, but I need you guys to make the final vote. I called the third sack. I said, here comes the hat trick or the sack trick, right? And I go, but there's no way they're going to pass the ball here, right, Kay? And then they ended up passing the ball on Cassius. So does that count as calling it or no? Yeah, I don't think it does.
I mean, you called
called
the
it.
third sack.
But
That's
then I had a
hat trick, bro.
qualifier. I feel like the
Well, no.
qualifier ruins it.
At the end of the day, you said, man, yeah, I think you called it.
All right.
And ultimately, like Chris said, I think that was one of the things coming into this game, thinking about last week. One of the things I wanted to see after the first game was, can we get pressure on the quarterback? And obviously, Cassius Howell created pressure on his own 3 plays in a row. But to finish with 6 sacks against a team that uses a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of misdirection, I think the penetration and the pressure that our defensive line, like Chris said, created this week was encouraging, because we're going to face some significantly more talented offensive lines as we head into next week in SEC play. And that's what we were hoping for. Like Chris said, can our run defense hold? Can we have the proper gap penetration and gap assignment and alignment? And can we create pressure on the quarterback? And we did that today. Again, we all know it's going to be a step up next week and as we head into the meat of the season, but that was encouraging for sure.
CT, I want to talk Marcel for a minute, because I think sometimes people take for granted his numbers, right? And they just think, oh, those are just stats. But, I mean, I was getting text during the game. He doesn't look as crisp. You're right. He didn't look as crisp. Dude was 19 of 28, 220 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, by the way, rushed for 66, had a touchdown. Back-to-back weeks where he has 4 touchdowns, and we know he can be better.
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing that I see from Marcel to start the season, he's been a lot more poised in the pocket. His feet are a lot quieter. I think he's decisive in his reads. He's going from 1 to 2, and he's pushing the ball down the field. Yeah, he missed a couple of throws in that second quarter, but people fail to realize he's still a young quarterback. He's still learning. There are things that he still has not seen from defenses. So I think as he keeps progressing throughout the season, as long as he's taking those steps, he's getting better week by week. I think the biggest number that is the most important number there is he's not turning the football over. I don't care if he throws for 500 yards. As long as he's making good plays, he's putting us in a great position to be successful. He's putting us in scoring opportunities. And then when those opportunities arise, he's making those plays. I mean, what is it? 8 touchdowns the last 2 weeks, no turnovers. He's protected the football. He's put us in position. And then you have that dual threat, that dual threat component where he's throwing it well. The receivers are making plays, and then his legs came out to play today, and he's made plays in the run game as well. So I think Marcel is fine. He gives Notre Dame a lot of things to really prepare for. You got to prepare for the outside. You know what we have in the backfield as far as running backs, and now you have to account for 10 with the things that he's able to bring to the table. So I'm not worried about it. As long as he keeps protecting the football, he gives us an opportunity to win.
Harrington, we have a loyal listener. His name is James. He's on the YouTube page. And by loyal, he listens a lot, and he always complains. He's never satisfied. He says, here, I'll be happy to keep it within 21 points next week. I feel, and tell me if I'm wrong here, because, sometimes I can drink the maroon Kool-Aid too. I feel like when the games have mattered, like when A&M decides to play A&M football, and against Notre Dame, you have to do it for 4 quarters. You can't just choose a half and get it through. But I feel like we answered a lot of questions from last week. You wanted to see a balanced approach. A&M gave you a balanced approach. You wanted to see a team struggle running the ball. What are the numbers here that they did? It was less than 100 yards rushing from as a total. They had 78 yards rushing. So I feel like A&M answered a lot of questions. While it wasn't a fantastic score at the end, most of that was done when the game was out of hand.
Yeah, the first string, I think, did a good job being consistent and stopping the run. Like I said, this team, every year it's a new group, and they're on their own journey, figuring out who they are. And these first 2 weeks weren't as tough a test as we're going to face next week in South Bend. But I think explosive offense, we've got that now. I think we've seen at times defense stopping the run this week, and then getting pressure as well. So I'm encouraged. I'm excited. I think we have all the pieces in place. Excited to see how the guys come together and show up next week and put together a full game against a really good opponent.
Brandon, 2 weeks in a row that I'm late to get to KC and Mario Craver. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mario Craver was having a quiet afternoon, and then he finishes with 114 yards and a touchdown. That's back-to-back weeks. Had that beautiful touchdown. Okay, KC Concepcion. All that guy does is score touchdowns.
Yeah,
and dominate.
Well, I mean, but the first 2 games between those 2 guys, they have over 450 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. So 2 things. One, I've been encouraged by Colin Klein in the sense that he's utilizing this improved talent that we brought in at the receiver position. utilizing the tight end game. I was super encouraged to see Bussy get more involved, and because when you're doing that, when you're getting Bussy involved, another 5-star guy that we have, you're putting more pressure on future defensive coordinators they're going to have to coach against us. And so those two guys have brought a spark to this offense. They've brought explosiveness to this offense. They've taken the top off the defense. And then even like everybody talked about last week, everybody harped on it all week long. The effort and the downfield blocking by our guys shows the buy-in that you have from them. And so, listen, from an offensive standpoint, there's plenty of plays that we missed. But overall, Marcel, like CT said, man, when you play these type of games as you head into Notre Dame, we're taking care of the football. We're utilizing all of our playmakers. We're testing the middle of the field now. We're creating more film, more stress as they get the binder for scouting Texas A&M, and they're trying to figure out what we do on offense. We're creating more stressors for the defensive staff that are preparing for us. And as Marcel continues to improve, think about that touchdown he threw to Marcel in the third, or to Concepcion in the back of the end zone. He sat in the pocket the whole time as that route developed in the back. The offensive line.
I thought that was going to be a pick, and then it was he knew the play.
Correct.
He knew exactly where to throw it.
It was a great play call, and it was a great job by Marcel staying in the pocket. Great job by the offensive line protecting him and giving the time to go through his progressions. But he watched Concepcion, and he knew what was going to happen. He did the drag across the back of the end zone. He hit a touchdown right in front of me and my daughter that were watching the game. So that was exciting. I'm encouraged. Yes, the upgrade in talent next week is going to be significant, but Craver and KC have been a huge addition. Props to Elko and the staff for adding them, number 87 at tight end, 84 at tight end. We have a lot of options that we can use. And if you can, there's plenty of stuff that we could talk about to be negative and critical as we head into Notre Dame, but there's a lot of positives that we can build on. I'm not saying we're fixing to go 12-0. What I am saying is I've been encouraged by our offensive production when the starters are in there, when it's our first team, when the game has mattered. And we're really going to all know what's going on. We can really talk about it more at the end of Saturday next weekend. But I'm encouraged by what we do heading into next week. I'll see y'all in Chicago and South Bend.
Oh, it's going to be a party. CT.
It's going to be fun.
Let's talk maybe on Moss because, I like for him to get the ball every time it's a 4-for-1 situation. But just the bottom line is 10 carries, 68 yards, a touchdown, a 21-yarder. He doesn't have to get that many carries to affect the game. But when he gets a lot of carries, he certainly does affect the game. I think it'll be very interesting how much they use him next week against Notre Dame.
Performance, he was effective, I think is the best word. And the stats are not going to jump off the page yet, but you know what Le'Veon brings to the table. He's a volume guy. He can carry it 25, 27 times a game to wear down a defense. And so I think Le'Veon is still getting his legs up under him. They said something on the broadcast. It's been 10 months, since he's been in the end zone. And you think of how brutal that knee injury was at South Carolina and the rehab and everything that had to take place. And so I think the first two games, get your legs underneath you, make sure that you're sound with carrying the football, make sure that you're doing the things to protect yourself and get ready for that big one next week. But I think next week you're going to see an uptick in the volume that Le'Veon's going to carry it a lot more. And then you have Ruben that's getting in there, and then Amari so that backfield, I think we're fine. But when you look at Le'Veon, 10 carries, it's a hard hat and Lunchville type day. He ran well. He carried it for over 6 yards to carry. And I think next week you see a lot more volume. But we're getting him ready for that long haul because we know next week and then the SEC schedule, it's a grind. And so, I think the first 2 weeks, cool. Get his legs ready. Next week, I think you'll see him carry it a little bit.
All right. And Harrington, let's talk a little bit about the score. Giving up the 22 points. Where I don't have a problem with it, because there's some folks on the YouTube page a little scared about next week. Where I don't have a problem with it is I feel for the most part it was a 30-6 shellacking. Okay, that was the first half score. They did have a nice run to start off the second half, and I'm like, we're starting it just like last week. But on their first two scores, it was all started by stupid penalties. You got a 15-yarder to start off the very first touchdown that they scored, and then on the second touchdown to make it 30-14, you had a hands to the face, I think it was, and a roughing the passer, like back-to-back on third downs, by the way. So the fact that you had, to me, it's more about cleaning up those penalties than the actual defense, because you did have them stopped 2 times on third down.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed to see, I think it was York that had the roughing the passer. It was just, as the leader on the defense, you just got to be smarter than that. But we got the job done today. I'm looking. We were talking about the running back room. I mean, there's so much depth there. That's really encouraging. Jamari Morrow looked great. He had a great spin move and rush up the middle. But we've got depth at receiver. We've got depth, in the running back room. Offensive line just staying healthy. I was a little concerned to hear Zune was banged up a little bit. Miles O'Neal had a great throw there on the touchdown to Craver there. But good to see Marco Jones out there getting a sack, the freshman. He's got a promising future there, and Sam Pemba with the sack fumble. So wearing 92, so that made me proud.
Brandon, people want us to talk secondary. The first couple of games, at least from a coverage standpoint, there was one play that Tyreek Chappelle was early in the first half. The quarterback for them, Bryson Barnes, threw a beautiful pass was on the right side of the field, at least the way I was watching the game. And Chappelle was with him step for step, and then he turned around, and Obi made a note. Like last year, guys didn't turn around; they turned around. What do you think about the secondary? I know there's some issues on the edge, and I know, but overall coverage.
I think the overall coverage has improved. I think everyone could probably notice it today, seeing Will Lee. He got beat deep a couple times on that first drive. I couldn't tell from where I was sitting in the game if it was a double move or whatever it was when the guy caught it and it got reviewed. Then they called a holding on him that I thought was a ticky-tacky call. But ultimately, they've kept the ball in front of them for the most part. I think they've improved, like you said, turning around. It was good to see Dalton Brooks back. You could tell it was week one for Dalton. Bronny and I talked about this briefly. I think Bryce Anderson had a better football game today. His eyes were better. He made better plays in the open field. But ultimately, I think we have plenty of depth in the secondary. But again, man, we all know this. They're going to be tested significantly more next week and as we head into SEC play. And I think as long as they can do it, what my concern with the secondary has been, can they force the ball back inside? Like we've lost contain a few times in the first two games on the outside runs. One of them was an option play where it was pitched way out wide, pitched it late heading into the Utah State sideline. But you got to make sure on your run fits that you're forcing them back to your help. So keep the guys inside and in front of you and don't get beat deep. Today, in that first drive, I was a little concerned with our eye discipline, but I believe that they settled down later into the first quarter and the second quarter. To me, that's the biggest thing in the secondary is can you play well with your eyes? You're going to get caught looking in the backfield. Are you going to stack the roof, stay in front of the DB, not let them get behind you? And I feel like they've shown that improvement. But, again, I'm going to reserve my judgment for that discussion a little bit more until after next week in South Bend because I think the test is going to be significantly more challenging as we head into Notre Dame.
All right, everybody, let's wrap up with just some thoughts. What you've seen the first 2 weeks, does it make you more or less optimistic for the game against Notre Dame? And you can also add how Notre Dame looked against Miami because I thought C.J. Carr actually looked pretty good. And the fact that they did not run the ball with Jeremiah Love worries me because if he runs the ball, I think they win that game. CT, what are your takeaways from what you've seen from A&M the first 2 weeks and Notre Dame and how that makes you feel for next week?
Yeah, first 2 weeks. And I think we've used this word quite a bit. It's encouraging. Are we saying we're going to win the national title, this year because of the first 2 weeks? Absolutely not. But I think you've seen an offense that has been they've taken care of the football. They've made plays downfield. You see the receivers and what they bring to the table. The run game got going today. Marcel added in the ability to extend plays and make plays, himself. Defensively, we were getting home. We put pressure on the quarterback. We were much better against the run. So overall, first 2 games, when it has mattered, and not that it doesn't matter as we get later in the game, but when you're playing the game, I think our team has been very solid. We've done the things that we were supposed to do against the opponents that we've played. So encouraged there. And from a Notre Dame standpoint, we know that the talent is going to be is probably going to be through the roof next week. It's going to be a lot better than what we have seen the first 2 weeks. And so we do have to be sound. We've got to have those proper fits, make sure that we have our gap integrity, all of those different things that you hear. Up front, we have to make sure that we're sound with our assignments because this is a first road game. We're going on the road to a hostile environment. Offensive line has to be set. Marcel has to make sure that everybody's on the same page. But overall, Notre Dame puts their pants on the same exact way, one leg at a time, and we're going to line up and tee it off, And so I think if we can stop Notre Dame's run game and make the quarterback have to beat us, we give ourselves a chance as we go into South Bend because nobody else is giving us a chance. But I think that line should be pretty tight. Should probably be about a 3.5, 4-point spread. But A&M has a chance to go in there and steal one, come back here.
Harrington?
Yeah, I'm encouraged. I think we did what we needed to do the first 2 games. Obviously the offense is way more dynamic than we saw last season. It comes down to winning line of scrimmage, keeping the ball in front of us, making the plays when it's time to make a play. But we've got depth pretty much at every position. But I think the dynamic offense is that's the thing that I'm most encouraged about, head into this season. That's something that we didn't see in year 1 of Colin Klein's offense, but now he's got the tools he needs with Concepcion and Craver and a full running back room. And we're healthy. So we just need to keep moving forward and keep taking the next steps. But I like where we're at, and I'm encouraged moving forward.
Brandon, wrap it up.
Yeah, man, I feel like if anybody's watched that Cowboys documentary on Netflix, if you've watched it, whether you're a Cowboys fan or not, it's just interesting from a football standpoint. I feel like our fans in general are like Jimmy Johnson as they headed into year 3. Like all the players were fired up.
Yeah.
Everybody's seeing the improvement, but Jimmy Johnson's pissed and he's frustrated because he just wanted excellence.
It's a really good comparison so far. I like it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
he really was like frustrated. He's like, I want them to be disgusted by losing, disgusted by not making all these plays. And I know that our fans are that way because we're starving as a fan base to be elite. My encouragement to you would be, this is the first 2 weeks of the season. Let's wait. Let's hold our judgment for a few big games, SEC and Notre Dame, to see where we're at. And so I've been encouraged at the fact that Marcel Reed has answered the $1 million question, can he throw the football? He's taken care of it, which is the key. He's been smart when he runs it. Colin Klein, in my opinion, has done a good job utilizing the new talent that we've brought in to stretch the middle of the field to put more pressure on defensive coordinators and their staffs as they break our film down. My discouragement would be, I feel like our first 15 on both sides of the ball are elite. I think they're really, really good, and I think they give us a shot if we stay healthy. I feel like if we start getting into the bottom 16 to 30 players, you've seen a little bit of that being exposed. But the other flip side of it is they've gotten reps. They've gotten opportunity to coach. They've gotten film to break down. So I'm encouraged. I think it's going to be a very, very tough game next week. But my concern coming into this game is, can we score points? Like, can we score points against these elite teams? Can we not get down 21-0 as we head into these big games? And so far, we've done a good job getting out in front of people, getting a big lead, producing, and taking care of the football. So if we can take care of the football, assuming Marcel Reed is fully healthy, we have a shot next week. And be encouraged, have fun, and let's see how it goes, because it's a big statement, man. We've had these games for a lot of years in a row in the beginning of the season. Mike Elko and this staff want to make a big statement to the country, to the recruits across the country. You got to go win. You got to go win a big one.
All right, I want some head nods on this one real quick, guys, because if I were to tell you that your quarterback so far has thrown 7 touchdowns in 2 games against, lesser opponents for sure, and has rushed for 1, hasn't thrown an interception, had 2 drops today that would have affected his numbers, by the way. There was 2 drops by Ashton Beltheroma that I think he would like to have back.
First drive.
That your team outrushed their opponent this week, not last week, but this week, by almost 200 yards, that you outgained them by double. And not most, but a bunch of the points you've given up over the last 2 weeks have been in garbage time, with your backups. If I were to say that to you guys, I feel like we won't know anything anyway next week. And I don't think Elko has really shown much either. I mean, your best offensive player who's coming out of knee surgery has only had 13 carries on the year, right? So, slowly ramping up is the way I look at it, just the right way. Next week, we'll find out a lot about this team. And whatever happens, it doesn't mean anything, right? Because you win that game, you still got a long way to go. We know about November. You lose that game, you saw what happened last year. You rolled off 7 straight wins. So it's part of the process. Gentlemen, thank you very much for the post-game wrap. All right, that's going to do it. Texas A&M does win 44-22. And we will have a Luchador later. We will have TexAgs Live on Monday. And our special thanks to TKO Equipment. Go to tkooequipment.com. We'll see you next time.